for that. So implicit bias and stereotypes. I want to give you a definition, and then we're going to have an exercise and to kind of like show how we can learn a little bit more and dive into this really briefly. And then our panelists are going to model that for you. So here's a quick definition. Implicit bias, these are attitudes and stereotypes that affect our understanding, actions, and decisions in an unconscious manner. And there are also these things called microaggressions. These are comments or actions that negatively targets a marginalized group of people and can be intentional or accidental. Now, again, we'll dive deeper into these topics into future trainings, but to give us an idea of what this actually looks like, we can do what's called an I am, but I am not statement. An I am, but I am not statement is basically saying, identifying yourself. You would identify yourself as an individual within a certain group, a gender, race, religion, or whatever that might be. But say what you are not, which is the stereotype that could be tied to that particular identifier. I'm going to model that for you. Okay. So here are my am, but I am, but I am not statements. And again, as you are listening to the speakers, you listen to me, I want you to think about what that is for you so that when you go into your breakout sessions, you can share that with one another. Does that make sense? So here we go. I am, but I am not. I am a Black woman, but I'm not an angry Black woman. I'm a passionate woman, but I am not irrational and highly emotional. I am a Black woman married to a white man, but I am not against Black marriages. I am a Christian, but I am pro-choice and support the LGBTQ plus community. I am a working mom, but I am not against stay-at-home moms. Do you see? These are stereotypes that people have of me in the group that I identify or that you might see me as. Does this make sense? It's not that I own these stereotypes, and there could be some microaggressions that could be against me or others that you are not even aware of. So the purpose of today is for us to really begin to identify that for ourselves and to look at our coworkers and see, oh my gosh, I wasn't aware that that was something that you've experienced. And as we begin to learn about one another's stories, we begin to learn about some of the things that we all have had to carry in our lives, we're going to grow further together. Does that make sense? Fantastic. So here's our guidelines for listening today. The goal is that by listening to one another's stories, we seek to emotionally understand what other people feel and hear their point of view and imagine ourselves in their place. Stay engaged, listen to each other's stories, be mindful in using the chat feature, be respectful of those sharing their story and the courage it takes to publicly share, refrain from using the chat while the person is speaking. And should you have any questions or comments, please feel free to put them in chat after the person shares their story, and refrain from having separate conversations. And should you need to explore an issue or an incident that's particularly challenging to you that happened to you at Sandata, and you need to speak to someone separately, we ask that you share that first with human resources. Sound good? All right, well, we're gonna go ahead and get started for today. We have for our first one, Long Go. He's a customer service manager. Charlene, who goes by Char. Avina, she's a technical communicator in Solana. And Brandy Noxinger, business services specialist in RMS. And I think that we don't have April for today. I meant to take that off there for April to not be able to be here today. So we'll get her next time. So,
yeah. Just one quick thing. There's a typo on Long's name, and I don't want to be disrespectful to his name.
Oh.
Instead of an A, it's N, so it's Long No, NGO.
Long, did I have that wrong?
No, you had it correct in the spelling. Maybe I pronounced it wrong for you earlier.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So are we good? Thank you so much for that.
No problem.
All right. Let's go to our questions. So Long is going to start us off. And Long, if you could just go through the list here and make certain that we have everything here, and then you're going to share for about 3 to 5 minutes.
Great. Well, good morning, good afternoon, Sandata team. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to share a little bit about myself today. So I work on the customer success team at Sandata. I've been here, this May will be 3 years. And so far, the most enjoyable thing is not only the people, but the support that we get from leadership, or at least the support that I've personally experienced from our leadership team, from attending meetings with Tom and the client, all the way down to my team leadership and the support across teams that I've experienced here. So I actually came from Vietnam as a refugee right after the war. And for those of who remember, I was part of that Camp Pendleton tent city down in San Diego. And luckily for us, my aunt had married an American GI. So we ended up in Thousand Oaks, California. So for those of you who don't know where that is, that's in Southern Cal, about an hour north of LA and an hour south of Santa Barbara. So I grew up, in an area that was predominantly white, middle class. We were back, in the early 70s, the first, one of the first full ethnic families. There were no other, Africans, Asians, or other, ethnic type families in that area at the time. So it was definitely interesting growing up there. I have 2 siblings, an older brother and a younger sister. So that puts me as the middle child. And you know how all the sayings and stereotypes are middle child, but that's me. The most difficult and important, unique challenge that I learned growing up and really that helped shape me personally was communicating and learning English. So when we came over, being still a young kid, not speaking English, not literally not knowing a word of English, shortly, probably a month after we arrived in the States, we were put into school. So, being in kindergarten, luckily, I was still in the same boat with all the young kids still learning the language. So that definitely gave me the opportunity to, get up to speed with everybody else. And, I have other friends who came over at a later age, the 14, 15-year-old Vietnamese people that came over later. And, we're at a much more of a disadvantage because they didn't have the younger people to learn the language from. So, as I said, that coincides with the impact on my childhood experiences. So being, one of the first full ethnic families in there, I grew up with all Caucasian friends, everything, but yet not once did I feel or was treated differently. And I think that really shaped me as I grew older, and to look at it, everybody's the same. It didn't matter who they were, where they came from, or, what they had or didn't have. As growing up and everybody treating me that way gave me that same feeling that I, appreciate and move along and make sure that I treat everybody the same too. So a couple of statements on the learning topics today. The first one is, I am a man, but I do like to shop. So I very much enjoy shopping and have no problem hitting the mall, walking around with my wife and kids, or looking for the best sale and bargain that's out there. And honestly, really do take pride in finding the best deal and being able to tell my friends, hey, look what I got, this deal. But a little bit more on a serious note, another statement would be, I am Asian, but not a bad driver. So that's it for me, but thank you for, again, giving me the opportunity to share a little bit about myself.
Long, thank you so much for sharing and for, wow, this is great. I love your history and for everything that you bring to Sandata. And of course, I love your first "I am, but I am not" statement. I think everyone was kind of clapping on that one. That's awesome. And thank you for showing up and thank you for sharing your amazing story.
May I share one quick story that's kind
Please,
of funny?
absolutely. Yeah.
So I recall my first meal coming to America. We were all put on the big C-130 transports where they took out all the seats. And my first American meal was a KFC little chicken box with the red stripes. And to this day, I still remember the spork.
That's
I
awesome.
opened it up and got my spoon with the little tip on it. Had no idea what that was. We didn't, have plastic silverware before. And that was my first introduction to an American meal was KFC and the spork.
The spork. Can we have in the
The
chat
spork.
everyone saying, "I remember the spork"? Who
That
remembers
was the
spork?
first American meal I was privy to.
That's awesome. That's
Thanks for
awesome.
letting me share that.
Lon,
Wonderful
thank you so
story. Yeah,
great
wonderful
story.
stories.
Thank you so much. Yes, yes.
Long,
So
my daughter. I just want to say my daughter's adopted from China, and she's from. It's near. I guess it's near. It's very south, so it's near. It's Zan. I don't think I can say it right, but it's Zhanjiang. Like I don't know if you know. That's where my daughter's. She's 12 now.
You did,
So
yes.
and love her to death. The best thing we ever. We just. I mean, adore her. I mean, it's just. It was such a great journey. A long journey to get her, from adopter was a long process, but have you been back to Vietnam? I just was wondering. I don't want to.
Not yet. We're looking at planning a trip as we wanted the kids to get a little bit older. My wife is half Chinese. So,
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we were just waiting for the kids to get a little older just to, make sure that they are aware and really could appreciate, the culture and where we both came from.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Lon. Linda, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
sharing as well. We're going to get to, I appreciate that conversation. Linda, we'll have to have you come in on one of these stories and share your story.
Oh, sure.
Our next speaker is going to be Shar. Shar, take it away.
Hello, thank you. I'm excited to be here and to share my story today. What do I do for Sandata? I'm on the Solana engineering team, so I wear a few different hats in the engineering team. I kind of, I'm like a liaison between implementation and support and dev. So I do a lot of troubleshooting and I also do the documentation and training materials. We just became a part of Sandata back in October timeframe, I think it was, but I've been with Solana for 15 years. So it was just 15 years in September. And what I enjoy most, well, really there's two things are my coworkers and the customers that I work with. I have made some really good friendships with our customers and they're a great bunch to work with. I have great coworkers to work with. And then the other thing that really inspires me is our mission. So it makes me feel good that that not only that the products that we're working on help people who are disabled or are medically fragile, but we're not everything that we do supports that mission. So that kind of makes me feel good. Where did I grow up? I grew up in Bowling Green, Ohio, which is a small town, college town. So there's a state university there. It's predominantly a white area, but we do have like international students and stuff that come to the university. So during the school year, there's a lot more diversity than it is during the summertime. But I did go to 12 years worth of Catholic school, including 4 years in an all-girl school. So, and in my school, it was predominantly a white school. So I didn't have a lot of friends of color. There are 2 siblings in my family, and I'm the oldest. My sister's 2 years younger than me. So I was the boss. And then a difficult or important or unique challenge of my childhood would be, I think mainly I was a very shy child. I had a lot of anxiety issues, and so I was quiet. So I had a harder time making friends, and the way that anxiety manifests in me a lot of the time is that it makes it so I can't eat. So I was a very thin girl too, and so I had some body image issues, I would say, because people always tied me with being the really thin girl, and so that kind of fed into that whole anxiety and being quiet and not eating. And I think that impacts me now more because I am aware of how anxiety affects me. I'm aware that I need to do more self-care than I used to. And it gives me empathy to know that when I look at someone, that even though they look like they're smiling or happy on the outside, that there could be stuff going on inside that I don't know about. And so I try to put myself in their shoes and not just make assumptions or jump to conclusions about how someone is acting, or because there's always a story that you don't know, that you can't see. And then a couple of I am statements for me, and I would say the first one is I am a woman who struggles with anxiety, but I am not a crazy person. And secondly, I would say I am a Democrat, but I am not pro-abortion, I'm not immoral, and I'm not lazy. So that would be it for me.
Shar, thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. And being a person who's just right around the corner from Bowling Green State University, I completely know your background,
Yeah.
and I really appreciate you for stepping up today and sharing that. And may I add to your story is that it's so very true, and we will spend time on empathy, is that we don't know what people are struggling with behind the scenes. And so it's just these exercises and this time that Sandata is choosing to spend with one another really helps us to understand the humanity of all of us. So Shar, thank you so much for sharing that. And I appreciate you and your I am, but I am not statements. Thank you so much. Awesome. Brandy.
Hello.
Hi. Take it away. Great to have you.
I work for billing services. I do billing for the IDD. I've been with Sandata. I started in March. I actually started with Solana, and then we were taken over by Sandata. So it's been almost a year. So far, what I have enjoyed most working for Sandata has also been the people. Our team was transitioned into new management and stuff, and I felt a real safety net working for Carrie. And then we were told we were going to be taken over, and I was really nervous about that. But I don't think that we could have gotten better managers. Phil and Donna are absolutely wonderful. And I always had that stereotype that New York people, we always hear that they're mean and they're grumpy people. And that is far from Phil or Donna. They are wonderful people.
You're a tourist.
I grew up in a very small town. My graduating class was 69 people. So there was not a lot of diversity at all. I moved to a little bit bigger town after I graduated, and I was exposed to so much more. And that just like moving out of that small town helped me grow so much as a person. And I'm very grateful for that. There were 3 of us. I also had a half sister and a half brother, but I was the baby. One of the most difficult, important, or unique challenge of your childhood. So I think one of the most difficult things was growing up in a small town. Everybody knew everybody. Everybody thought they knew you and your family. And one of the most difficult things was I was in a single one-parent family. It was just my mom and us. And my mom lost both of her parents when she was young. So she did not have a lot of guidance growing up either. Like my mom gave us all the love in the world, but we completely grew up on the system. So we never had anything to look for, like for work or anything like that. We didn't have anybody to really look up to. But everybody in my community, well, not everybody, but a lot of people were really, really judgmental. Like I was always so scared to go to the store with my mom. I didn't want to be seen, using food stamps with her. So that was just really difficult. Like everybody feeling like everybody was looking down on you. The impact that has had on me. Well, I left my last job after being there for 20 years. And I think that one of the biggest things that kept me there was feeling that great pride in that I had held down a job for so long. But as far as like with my experiences with my mom and growing up on the system and stuff, I mean, at times I feel like I've been judgy of the system because of what I grew up on. Because my mom was able to work, why she didn't or how all that worked, I never really understand. So I have to be careful and be open-minded that just because we grew up like that doesn't mean that that's what everybody is going through. That like the system, it can be good. I have seen it do good for people, and people really, really do need it. And my mom was a great person. I just don't think that like she had those tools in life. Like she knew how to love very, very, very well, but the other stuff, she didn't really get that. My I am, but I am not statements. I am a perfectionist, but I am not perfect. These are really hard for me. I am tired, but I am not finished. And that's it. I'm done.
Thank you, Brandy. I so appreciate you for sharing your story and for sharing that story about your mom,
Thank you.
Very tender moment, and I appreciate you telling us. And as we hear these stories and as we hear everyone's stories, I hope that we're all really listening and learning about ourselves. That's the beauty of sharing your story, is that we get to listen to ourselves, and perhaps there might be things that are kind of inside of us that we hear, right? So yes, Paige says, I am a perfectionist, but I am not perfect. Fantastic. Thank you, Brandy. Appreciate that. Well, we've come to the portion of our time together where we're going to go into our breakout rooms. And I have Nina's taking time, tabulating everything. Here are the breakout room instructions. We're going to have 4 people per breakout room, right? 5 minutes per person to share. If you find, and we need a timekeeper. Okay. We need someone who's going to pick up their phone and put 5 minutes on. Some people like to talk. Some people will be 1 minute, but we want to make certain that people are taking that time. A note taker. And then these are the things we're hoping that you will share. What do you do? How long have you worked at Sandata? Share about your personal story, where you grew up, the siblings, the most difficult and important, unique challenge of your childhood, and then share your I am statements. And then I'd like to add to that your experience dealing with stereotypes and bias. And if you see any of this happening at Sandata, we want you to share that in your small group. And if you could have the note taker share, we're going to actually put this in the chat. If it's not there already, yes, that's what she's got. She's all down. You can have that note taker email that information to me. And real quickly, before we go into the breakout rooms, stay engaged, speak your truth, right? Use it from the I perspective. Listen listen for understanding, and expect and accept non-closure. So we're going to be going into our breakout rooms, and we will be there for 20 minutes, and then we'll come back. I know this was a part of the session a lot of people liked last time. So Nina, take us into our break. About how that was for you. Anyone want to take a minute to be able to do that for us? Or Nina, we have folks still coming back?
Yeah, we have one room that don't want to leave yet.
Must be a deep dialogue.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I think when we only saw 3, we thought we might have been the only one that was 3. So
Yeah.
And then when that message came across, it sounded like there was other people. So maybe they're just figuring, oh, they'll just end it on us like last time.
Yeah.
We had 4 in our room, just so you know.
We had 4 as well.
We had 4.
All right. Anyone like to
finished up.
share how that experience was for you? I think one of the things that we found in our group was, we talked with one another, but we talked about, what's going on in our world today and how certain biases and stereotypes can take hold. And some of us had a little bit more of those I am not statements. And some found it hard, to say these I am, but I am not. And I wonder if any of you, had the opportunity to kind of bounce off one another to hear more about that.
One thing I would.
Yes,
Sorry,
Oscar.
Sorry, I just want to share that I had Tom Underwood and then Amanda from HR. I thought I was in trouble.
Awesome. Fantastic. Awesome.
What I would say is we had a very interesting mix of people, and it was very enlightening.
Yeah.
Learning about some of my coworkers and what they've gone through.
Yeah. Thank you, Michael.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting. I actually had a room where I had one person who I've known for many years, one person who I've started to work with for the last so many months, and one person who I've never worked with. So it was a very interesting mix of people and finding out about them in a way that, quite frankly, we never would have had that opportunity.
Thank you, Judy. Every one of you, if you could, I love it. If you could just, we're not all going to be able to share our thoughts, but could you please go ahead, just put in the chat, what did you think about today? We'll go ahead and save that chat, but it's so very important for us to be able to share that with one another. And this is so important. It is so critical that we come together as human beings to learn that we all didn't arrive at Sandata in the same way, right? We all did not arrive at the same way. So I'm so grateful for Sandata, for the leadership, for saying we value this time that you all can spend just a few minutes to lean into one another's stories, to really get to deeply understand the powerful team that can come together when we take all our diversity and we bring it together and come together. So I value that. So I want to, thank you for sharing that. I want you guys, if you can, just take out your phone. You can take a picture. We all know QR codes nowadays, right? We all know QR codes nowadays. If you could, it's so critical that we get your feedback. Thank you for putting in the chat, but I would also love it if you could give me your feedback via this survey that we have here. So with that, I'll close it out. We at 12:54. Here's what I would love for all of us to think about. We are one family. We are going to go further together. Here's what our hope is. Our hope is that we fill up these monthly sessions. Our hope is that you tell your coworkers about this opportunity to get to know one another. And we have the leaders of the culture of engagement and inclusion and anti-racism. That's Shar. She's our chair, and our co-chair is Narvel. And Narvel is one who spoke last time. So I just want to say, if you would want to come and be able to share your story like we did, like the amazing people, we had Long, we had Brandy, and we had Shar share today. And we thank you so much for sharing and putting yourself out there and letting us learn about you. And we just hope that everyone else would feel it within themselves to do the same. So both Shar and Narvel will be asking for you to sign up for these monthly sessions. So with that, does anyone have any questions, any thoughts, any comments? We have like 4 minutes left, but I just want to make certain I didn't miss anyone if they had a question or a comment.